All right, I have to apologize for the delay. There are a group of people who have been working over here for the past couple of days, and they come very early and they leave very late. Not very late, but showing up at 9 and then leaving around 5 or 6 is a little bit past the usual 9 to 5 thing because they showed up before 9 and they leave after 5. So I'll see if we can get some people in here. Maybe we will, maybe we won't. Um, a couple of updates. One thing is the Dear John letter writer is going to get her documentary. Um, Probably as far because I've recorded all the stuff, I have all the screenshots. I'm probably going to put it out maybe midway through the week, Wednesday, Thursday, Tuesday, one of those 3 days. And it'll be about half an hour long, and I'll describe all the wonderful things that occurred when I spoke to her. um, and it won't be some, complete. Okay. Ruben says late night live stream today. I finally came back to Twatter after avoiding it for days. Well, you know my story, Ruben. I left there in June when they unceremoniously got rid of me. Coincidentally, the same night as the first Democratic debate. This wonderful coincidence. There was nothing planned about that. I am very humble in terms of being aware that I'm not some big person on YouTube. But it's just so hard to believe that the day they choose to get rid of you is coincidentally the same day as the first debate, when millions of people supposedly are quote unquote tuning in. Because remember, that primary before we had the first debate in June was basically just people give speeches in Iowa and New Hampshire, and they're announcing it's like really run of the mill stuff. They're doing some interviews, but there aren't any direct confrontations between the candidates at that point. I think the company that owns My Hero Academia announced that they want it to continue forever. Just Ruben, don't mess with One Piece. leave One Piece alone. Speaking of Dragon Ball, I was going to do a video about how 17 broke the whole series. So basically, the gist of it is that when I was a kid, anytime you mentioned wanting, let's say, Yamcha or any human character, right, to actually be able to fight on par with the new villains, somebody would always go up and say, they're not strong enough because they're humans, and this is the Saiyans, and they're supposed to be able to, whatever, right? But then when 17 shows up in Super, we know that he hasn't had any kind of training with, any gods of destruction or any person who is known to be on that level. And he's just been out in the woods fighting random poachers, and yet now he's magically strong enough to land damage on a Super Saiyan God, Super Saiyan or Super Saiyan, whatever you want to call it, the blue form, and fight Jiren and all these other people who are supposed to be leaps and bounds above Cell, who, in his first form was able to completely cream 17 when they encountered each other. So I was going to probably put that out maybe next week. It's probably going to be like 20 minutes, just me basically breaking down how year after year people would say the humans can't do it. There's no possible way. Get over it, right? Their era is over. And then I'm supposed to believe that people like that power scaling actually matters when you have a character who didn't even train with any person who's supposed to be on that level of strength, being able to come back and compete with all these people. So I don't know if you like the idea, Ruben. I think I know you mentioned you didn't like Super, but a lot of people who don't like it say they really like 17's, like, just his handling. So Dragon Ball characters still get beat up by the girl main character from Toriyama's other popular. Yeah, I remember they had I don't want to say filler, but they had an episode in Super where Vegeta couldn't beat her. You know what I'm saying? That they're trying to make it seem as if, the power scaling is of importance when, as I said before, characters are as strong as the writer wants them to be. Toriyama could wake up tomorrow and say that Shiatsu or Puar or Oolong are the strongest character, that they're going to make a comeback. Hell, remember he's in early Z, it was established that Roshi was weaker than Yamcha and Tien and basically all the other male humans who were younger, and now he's getting picked for the tournaments that decides the fate of the universe over Yamcha. I just think it's a bunch of nonsense. But yeah, I don't know if you would like that video or not. Broly only lost in his original 2 movies because the good guys always have to win. Well, isn't that basically every Z movie that, the bad guy shows up, they're able to just completely destroy the heroes, and then there's some miracle at the end that occurs. Yeah, we're getting another chapter of Super in a couple of days. Apparently, Yamcha's in it because there's a guy who I think the Twitter account is DBS Hype, and he contacts some person who gets an early screening of the manga chapter, and they basically say things without saying things. So he'll say, "Oh, this character, blah 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 blah." It's like really ambiguous on purpose to kind of get you riled up for it. And he said something about Yamcha, and then he said something about number either 17 or 18. So the 2 of them might appear in the next chapter, which would be good because I've really hated the handling of humans pretty much in every arc after Frieza or Cell, because that's when they started this thing of there's no possible way a human could ever do anything, and it gets annoying. Tony, if I had my way, they would do a Dragon Ball show where it was the group that fought Cell as the main characters. So that because those are the people that are I think have the most diverse moveset. I just realized that Cell also only lost for the same reason, since he could always just permanently regenerate himself. Yeah, and then you remember that they actually had a plot hole because, and when he comes back, he says, "Oh, my head has to be intact." But we saw Goku blow his head off when they. Remember, Ruben, that plot hole? I just thought that was funny. That his powers have this like they try to give him a weakness, and then the weakness doesn't even work because the writer decided it would look cool to have the main villain be ripped in half by the hero. Yeah, Cell was always my favorite villain out of the ones from Z, and it really does piss me off that we get Frieza coming back 4 or 5 times, but Cell can't come back once. There's actually a person who I had argued with about that, because they were like, "Well, who's going to bring Cell back?" And I had said 21 from Fighters. That was right when Fighters got announced. Like, "Oh, she's not canon." And this is before they announced that the next film would be Broly. And after that film came out, they're like, "Oh yeah, they can bring Cell back." Yeah. There was actually another person who, and that's why I don't like talking to a lot of the hardcore fans of Dragon Ball, because they a lot of times they say things that the franchise itself doesn't go by. Like there was another person around at the same time who said, if all they did was fight old villains, it would be boring. And then the exact next villain after the Tournament of Power is a villain who's been around for 20 years. Cell is too good to get dragged into the disaster named Dragon Ball Super. Well, he technically already was in there because of the remember the episode where Goku and Krillin go into that forest and it's all the old villains as hallucinations. Winnie the Pooh is a villain in Dragon Ball Super. Yeah, all I'm saying is I think it would be really cool to have him come back, because he's not like Frieza and he's not like Boo. He actually likes to train and seemingly wants to do more than just destroy the Earth. I think there's a lot of story ideas that could be used for something like that. But yeah, like I said, if I got my way, that group that fought at the Cell games would be the main character. So it would be Goku, Vegeta, and not the two. Not I'm basically saying they would not have the same focus they get in Super, where every single time something happens, it's always those two who have to show up, and because that's stupid. You can't rely on the same two people all the time. It'll be those two, Gohan, Piccolo, Vegeta. I said Vegeta twice. Krillin, Tien, and Yamcha. And then maybe future Trunks if they want to bring him back every now and again. Because nobody likes the younger version. The younger version is just a crappy ripoff of a counterpart to the older one. Bring Nappa into Dragon Ball Super, make him the abridged Team 4-star version. Vegeta. Yeah, there's actually a bunch of different, I don't know if they're videos, but I've seen people complain about how with Raditz, you have the brother of the series main character, and all he does is show up for like 10 chapters and get killed and set up the arc. Like he has this huge impact because he's the one who reveals that Goku's an alien, and then he just disappears. You never hear about him again in anything canonical. So he shows up in some games, but outside of that, nothing. So I said Dragon Ball was the first one of those series where they just kept introducing characters and killing them off and not using them effectively. And it's really disturbing because with a series where death is really cheap, you would expect them to bring people back more. But the thing is, when they bring them back, they just kill them off again. So it's kind of like, that was one of the few things I liked about Frieza being kept alive at the end of Super, that it's kind of the series realizing we can't just keep killing this character off because it's going to get redundant if we want to bring him back over and over. Oh. Make sure these people don't put anything over there. Krillin got hitched with the best female in the Dragon Ball franchise. Yeah, it's a shame they don't use her effectively though. Did you ever see, Ruben? Did you ever see, what was it? The team? They had some. Oh, I remember the top villain video they did for December from about, I think, 3 years ago. But they were talking about the fact that you get with 18, you have this female character who can actually keep up with most of the males at the time that she's introduced. And instead of trying to develop her further with the Buu arc and have her fight Buu in some, one-on-one solo fight like you do with all the other characters that you actually think have a chance, you stick a baby in her and just have her sit at the lookout until she gets murdered with everybody else. And they did the same thing with Videl. Oh my God. No, Krillin was my favorite. It's like him, Gohan, and Piccolo, those three. It's a shame they got basically chucked to the back burner for more sucking off of Vegeta. Dude, Piccolo had the worst role out of all the characters from Super, because he gets one fight in that first tournament, and it's established that Frost cheated, and instead of him being able to actually just keep fighting, because they found out Frost cheated, oh no, Vegeta's gonna step in and fight the next 3 people, and then during the future Trunks arc, they don't even let him do anything besides clean up crap. Music Fiend says, "You're a good man. I'm so flattered." Ruben says, Goku should have stayed dead after Cell killed him. Have everyone else struggle fighting Majin Buu by themselves. Ruben, there's actually a person who wrote, I wish I could link you to it. They wrote their own version of Z, and their ending because you remember the last fight's Kid Buu versus Goku and Vegeta, and then the Spirit Bomb, and they're overusing that move. They basically rewrote the series. Like, not actually just sat there and wrote out, like, I mean, they gave an outline of what they would change. And instead of Kid Buu getting killed by, using the same attack that failed to kill someone much weaker, referring to Frieza, they bring Goku, Vegeta, Gohan, Krillin, Tien, Yamcha, 18, basically all the major fighters from Z, and they all like fight Kid Buu together and just destroy him with all their. It was so cool the way he described it. Because it's like this is the last fight of the entire manga, and instead of having all the main characters of the overall product come together to defeat this foe, you're gonna take the main character and a main character from this that doesn't even show up until the second half, and leave everybody else to be in it like that. I always hated that fight as the fight itself isn't bad, but as the last battle of Z, it's kind of underwhelming. Man, at least if Cell was the end and they all showed up. What does not do in that AU? Oh, basically the same stuff he does in the actual version. Because they said before that pretty much for the Buu arc, in their opinion, Hercule or Mr. Satan, whichever way you want to refer to him, he took Krillin's role as like the comic relief that still does stuff. So he basically gave that back to him. So it's about the same, but since he doesn't like him, he doesn't try to give him anything else to do. Because when in the guy's version, he has 18 fight Fat Buu, and then he has Gohan fight Fat Buu, and then get basically shelved for the rest of the arc or disappear. That pretty much stays the same. But the point is, with any character that he likes or thinks can play a relevant role in the story, he lets him have more fights. It's better than everybody just sitting at the lookout for was it 50 episodes before they get murdered? There's no safety. Well, that's kind of the point, that the whole group, consisting of fighters of various powers, team up in a fashion that is similar to Goku and Piccolo versus Raditz. It was very much established that those two characters were weaker than Raditz, but that Piccolo had a move, the Special Beam Cannon / Makin Zampo, that was strong enough to take out Raditz. So if they have techniques that are stronger than them, and they're all combined on top of each other, Kid Buu's screwed. And again, in this person's version, he doesn't actually have 2v1s or any of that until the last fight, which, again, the point of having all of them fight metatextually is because those are the main characters of both series coming together to defeat the villain. Yeah, like I said, I don't even care about power levels or any of that anymore, because I was told that the humans couldn't do anything, and then 17 fights poachers that Kid Goku could have beaten, and now he's on the level of Jiren. So that I threw that out in the trash. They're even more underappreciated than the farmer was. Oh, the bug people whose planet got destroyed by Vegeta should get brought back. I could have sworn that was that was non-canon. I know what you're talking about, though, from the where they go out into space and they come out their pods and he just shoots the beam down at them. Yeah, Ruben, I don't even bother with power levels, and I told you can't even discuss this with fans of Z because they still cling to that. Like me and this guy were talking about GT and how it was kind of stupid to have Goku non-transformed beat Super 17, and it would have been cooler if when Piccolo died at the end of the baby arc, he went to Hell and then got the first Piccolo, so Piccolo Senior, Piccolo Daimao, and they fuse, and then they fight Super 17, so it's 2 Piccolos versus 2 17s, because it would be basically like a remake of their first fight, except now it's 2-on-2. And this guy was like, because we were doing this Discord call, But wouldn't the older Piccolo be way weaker? It's like, dude, if he's been down there training for 20 plus years against all of these different villains from the, I mean, come on, they can make any character as strong as they want. And the fact that it's been that long since he's been alive makes even more sense. Power levels are a gauge, but they don't matter. Like, you're really telling me, that's why I'm gonna keep using 17, a character who lost to first form Cell and then shows up and is able to fight on par with Jiren and Super Saiyan Blue Goku, that got stronger, that is confirmed to have gotten stronger because he fought poachers, people that don't even basically have power levels that aren't past the single digits, can exist, but that still is a system that can actually be gauged. I don't know why you can't just admit that they realized, oh my God, if we keep having people get stronger and stronger, nobody else will be able to do anything. So we have to just kind of bend our own rules. They did the same thing with that Super Saiyan God form. Oh yeah, this is 50% the strength of Beerus. Now he has blue. Oh, this is still weaker. How? Real reason is because they know that if that form has the same magnifier, Beerus is screwed. So they had to make it weaker. They retconned it. I'm surprised the Dragon Ball crossover with Dragon Quest has not gotten greenlit. Man, Dragon Ball is basically dead right now. They have the manga and Heroes. I don't even waste my time with Heroes. I watched the first episode of that and just turned it off. 17 disappeared after the Cell arc, but my point is we still know who he fought. And if all he fought were poachers who were, again, weaker than Kid Goku from the start of Dragon Ball, I don't buy, at least if we're going off the series logic of fighting stronger people makes you stronger, that fighting 1,000 of those or 1,000,000 of those over a 10-year period is going to make him on the level of a god of destruction. Seaweed 50%, sea 50% weed. Oh, Ruben, the Giuliani documentary will come out this week as well. Well, like I said, Black Pill, I've already explained why that character alone just destroys any reason for me to take power levels seriously. I'm told the Hispanic people are who spend money on Dragon Ball the most. Meanwhile, in Japan, it's overshadowed by monster shows like Kamen Rider. Yeah, I heard that. I mean, we already know One Piece is the most popular one, so it's not as big as it used to be. No, I used to believe in power levels. Like when Super came back and they were smart because what they did at the start of it was take all the characters that were not, people that were made sense to be really strong, like Goku, Piccolo, Boo, Gohan. They took all of them and they basically said, we're not going to use these people to have any serious fights ever. But then when they wanted to bring 17 back, they said we're kind of in a rut because if we bring him back at a reasonable power with the common sense of our story, he's going to be too weak to fight in the tournament because he's been practicing with poachers at best. So we're going to have to break the power level system and just make him strong out of nowhere, which is what they did. I mean, there is no logical reason for why that character was as strong as he was, other than power levels do not matter. But again, we'll get into that in the upload I'll do. I wonder, from a story standpoint, could Yamcha beat Frieza from the Namek arc? Well, I already said if they wanted to make any of the humans strong enough to beat pretty much any character, all they would have to do is have them train with Beerus or Whis. And then as they're training with these two characters, before someone says, "Oh my God, they're so strong, they couldn't train with them in the first place," all they'd have to do is have one of those two say, uh, "Oh, I can't. I'm gonna handicap myself so that you can actually fight me." And then from that point, they should be around the same level of. Like I said, that's my. If you want to have a story reason for why someone is strong, that's in my view the best way to have it. When are Dragon Ball Evolution characters going to be brought back for Super? Someone actually, before we knew that the tournament wasn't like a multiverse, like that comic that's been running for years, they did say it would be funny if they interacted with the evolution versions of the characters. Goku's like, "What do you mean I went to high school? That's crazy. I don't have any education." No, I remember this one guy was like, "What character were you most upset is as weak as they are?" I said Tien because he's supposed to be the human version of Goku, this person that never stops training, and I mean, if you wanted to make him as strong as a Super Saiyan Blue, at least that would have been more believable because he never quits as far as training is concerned. Yeah, you can take Evolution, that Mario movie, and then the last Airbender film and just throw them in the trash. Oh, wasn't there? Yeah, there was a Street Fighter movie that sucked too. So put all of them in a little bag. They should put them in a variety pack. Call it the crappy live action compilation. No, crappy live action adaptation compilation. Music Fiend says they do Yamcha dirty. Yeah, I told you that in Z they had him as being stronger than Roshi, but then Roshi gets picked for the tournament and then he doesn't. And then I can't even get mad because I mean if you look at what they did with Krillin and Tien and pretty much any character that was on the Universe 7 team that wasn't Goku, Vegeta, Frieza, or 17 or Roshi, basically half the team, I kind of am sort of glad he wasn't on there. I don't want to know what kind of crap they were going to pull. At least he got the baseball episode. The second one was even worse. I think that might be the one that came out around the time Evolution came out. So like 2009 or 8, one of those years. Yeah, Ruben, he seems to have forgotten about him. Like I said, the franchise is going to keep on boring me because they want to just they want to make it the Saiyan hour. I saw this one guy, he was like, the new Z Fighter should be Oob and Goten and Trunks and Pans. Like, man, I'm good. You make that show, I dip out. The only time they ever did any of those next generation shows that actually worked was Batman Beyond. Every time they try to skip into the future and put some characters in that they don't know if they can stick or not. Mm-mm. I remember the original concept for that show was that they were going to have a younger Bruce Wayne as bad. Like they were like, yeah, we'll just make a new character. Where's Ruben's comment? New Mortal Kombat also attempted to have new generations and failed. Yeah, because they you try to split from the main people. But the thing is, when people say they want Gohan to take it over, he was there long enough with the original characters to not be seen. Like, I saw one person who tried to compare what do you call it, Z to Boruto, and I said Boruto is basically just a sequel to Shippuden, where every character automatically has a clone child that is the same thing as them, pretty much. The only new additions to the cast for Z, like through the whole thing, are Vegeta and Gohan. They don't have Gohan hanging out with the kid of this person. Like, you get what I'm saying? It's a comparison that doesn't work, because the whole point of that sequel from the beginning was just to continue the adventures of the original characters with one or two new ones, versus not Shippuden, Boruto, where it's some whole new cast of clones. I mean, of new people. Someone said they should call Boruto Attack the next cloning, or some kind of thing where they make reference to Attack of the Clones. Well, I mean, Gotenks was the product of a clone of Kid Goku and a clone of Trunks, of future Trunks, rather. So he's really the only saving grace about Goten and Trunks. They're just like, every time people try to bring them up as wanting them to be used, I roll my eyes. I just find them so bland. That's why they won't use it. You notice they haven't used Gotenks since Battle of Gods, because they don't, like, they already have a fusion. They've got Gogeta and they've got Vegeta. Even though they screwed up Vegeta because they retconned it to where the Potara earring fusions don't, what do you call it? They're not permanent anymore unless you're a Supreme Kai, which is the dumbest thing ever. The real reason they did that, by the way, and nobody is talking about this, is because they don't want to go some extended period without having Goku. And they know that if they use the fusions, especially the permanent ones that aren't 5 minutes, like the Potara ones, they'll have to do that. So you'll probably still see Vegito, but it's going to be for like 1 minute, just like with him versus Zamasu. I don't know why they brought him in that fight. That was so stupid. I'm going to show up for 2 seconds and I can disappear and not be seen canonically for another decade. Bye. That was really dumb. But yeah, I've got Ruben's approval for the how 17 broke Dragon Ball video. So now we can get to work on it. I got some notes, and I'll splice them together, draw some picture, and then we'll have it. I've actually seen them go after people for having what they call copyrighted images, even if it's a still frame of some medium. Like, if I have a picture, one picture from, let's say, some movie that came out a month ago, that somehow is me taking the film and putting it. It's dumb, because that's the whole point of fair use, is to use some part of the content, not the whole thing, but to transform it. So whatever. We don't have very smart people running the policy protocols on these websites. That's why I'm so damn sick of all of them. You used a picture from this movie. You're trying to make the movie on here. Are you kidding me? Really? Oh, another video was going to be the top 10 wasted characters of the sequel trilogy. And that was going to be probably like 2 hours long, and I was going to explain how the character was wasted, how they could have been used properly. Like, I was so just to spoil Rise of Skywalker. So for the 5 people that are here, if you don't want to be spoiled, you better click off, run away, go in your little hole. I was really pissed off with the handling of Lando, but it kind of was not to be unexpected, because basically the way they wanted it was that if you weren't part of the original trio, so Luke, Han, and Leia, they pretty much were just gonna have you make a little cameo and then you get out of here. The only good thing the only thing I really liked about that film at all was the use of C-3PO. They gave him some meaningful role as opposed to the last two films where he basically just cameos. That's the only character that I don't have a gripe with. Well, that little mind wipe thing was stupid because it was them trying to make drama and it didn't work and you knew it wasn't going to last. But outside of that, he was the only character in that film I liked the role of. Everybody else, like I saw this one list and they were like, Kylo Ren is the 7th best movie villain of all time. I was like, what? You mean to tell me out of all the hundreds of films that have ever been released, this is the 7th best villain? He's not even the 70th. Oh. Ruben says Disney Star Wars is terrible to fool that people into thinking that the prequels are now good. Oh well, I like the prequels. So Ruben, you can unsub and make some videos about me. I'd rather watch those than watch any of these new films. At least they don't destroy the original trilogy. Like, I'm supposed to watch episode 6 and see Vader get redeemed by throwing Palpatine down the flight, and then watch episode 9 where he comes back and not think that that didn't have a conclusion. Well, that's the point, Ruben, that the prequels told an original story. When you watch episode 2, you don't feel like you're watching episode 5. And they actually give characterization to people from the original trilogy. If you didn't have the prequels, you would never know how Palpatine came to power. You would never know really anything about Obi-Wan besides he was just this Jedi that survived, that showed up and lived in the desert for a long time. So I would much rather, I'll take them any day over the sequel stuff. This guy was like, oh my God, those films, because I was saying that the sequel films were unnecessary. He's like, well, the prequels were unnecessary. It's like, yeah, but the point is they don't take away from the conclusion of the originals. Oh, that's another thing that pissed me off about the sequel trilogy. They got rid of all the expanded universe stuff so that these clowns could tell their own original stories. One of my favorite Legends books, as they now call them. So these were books that were written that were supposed to take place within the continuity of the first 6 films that were then called non-canon by Disney after they acquired the license, was Darth Plagueis, because in that book you find out how Palpatine became a Sith. You learn about his father, his mother, who's so cowardly around his dad, how him and Plagueis became friends, and how Plagueis was kind of this Sith Lord that wasn't like the rest of them, that actually believed in abolishing the rule of two. So he wanted to keep Palpatine and also have Darth Maul. And this was the most characterization for Palpatine outside of the prequel trilogy. And 2 years after that book came out, uncanonized by Disney. And I have not seen, when they've had the license now for 6 years. I have not seen these idiots at all try to tell their own version of that story. When I guess I'm saying that because when you know that the Legends material does not contradict their canon version of events, why decanonize it? Like, I guarantee they even read that book. They just said, well, someone wrote this a few years ago. We got to make sure it doesn't count anymore. A bunch of idiots, man. The whole sequel trilogy cast, just, I think the only character in that group that was slightly interesting was Finn, because it would have been cool to see the ins and the outs of a former stormtrooper, but they didn't use him effectively. Oh yeah, they've been messing with Boyega, that's the actor that plays Finn, because they're mad that Kylo, bites the dust at the end of Rise of Skywalker. So there's no Reylo, and all the supporters of that group, or rather of that shipping, are going on his page, and he's been like going nah, 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 nah. Oh, I almost wanted to do a video on it, but I don't want to promote those idiots. Like, if you don't like some part of the story, whatever, but I've never, out of all the little different horrible movies and episodes and just stuff that's come out with the licensing of something I like, been tempted to go and mess with an actor or voice actor, like over being in it. Like, that's stupid to me. So I'm not going to promote them. I'm just going to mention it here because I thought that was funny. We're mad that our couple isn't going to happen because this writer killed off one of them. So let's go and mess with the actor who plays one of the characters that had nothing to do with the writing process and therefore is not responsible in any way. Oh man, where did Ruben go? He got mad I stopped talking about Dragon Ball. He was like, I'm not here for that Star Wars stuff. He really did leave. He was like, man, you and your little prequel love, get out of here. I remember that the Star Wars book series had these puppy aliens that were Jedi Lords or something like that. I'll have to look into it, but that Darth Plagueis book, that thing was a masterpiece to me. It was, as I said, the most characterization for Palpatine outside of the prequel trilogy, and nothing in it contradicted the events of the sequel trilogy or anything like that, and they preemptively made sure it wasn't canon anymore after it was only canon for 2 years. By any chance, was Kathleen Kennedy also friends with Fat Harvey? Oh, don't mention that name over here. I don't want to hear it. The only Kathleen Kennedy I want to hear about is JFK's sister, who I believe is the one that died in the plane crash. Oh, that lady destroyed Star Wars, man. Her and J.J. Abrams and the rest of the clown car. I don't want them in charge of any movie that I'm in any way interested in seeing ever again. Yeah, Music Fiend. I'm aware that his son also died, but this was probably 40 years before that. So both are correct. Nice try trying to troll. JFK's son died in the plane. Yeah, I know. I'm aware. Ruben, you know how it is with the Kennedys. Any member of their family gets like 10 times the coverage, even posthumously, of a senator or some other person who doesn't have their last name, which is really pathetic, but whatever. Well, let me go look. Hold on. Let's type it in. Kathleen. I think it was in the 40s. I think FDR was president. I don't know. Let me see. Not Townsend. That's RFK's daughter. What was her name? She was married to some person that. Oh, here it is. Okay, that's why I didn't get it. Hardington. Yeah, she died in 48. So that was while Truman was in office. All right. Yeah, it was 50. It was 51 years before the. Oh, Ruben, don't start tempting me to do a Kennedy family documentary. Watch that thing get like 5 or 6 times the number of views of any of the ones on the presidents. I told you that's the only president that I will under no circumstances do a documentary on. Like, just completely X'd out. He's on my ban list. But we have enough material about him. I don't need to be part of the collective group. Yeah, she lived a long time, Rosemary. She died when I was in, I think, second grade. But yeah, so Cavendish, which is Kathleen's last name after marriage, died 51 years before JFK Jr. So now the timeline is complete. Got that receipt sticking out of my pocket. It was funny because I was trying to tell this person about how, with a lot of the, I mean, I guess like Ruben mentioned earlier that the creator of what was it, not One Punch Man, what was it, My Hero Academia, I think. Oh, here it is. Yeah, that the creator for that wants his thing to go on forever. Well, the thing is, with the world of One Piece, you've got so many different crews and characters that you kind of could have that go on for 50. Like it's literally an entire universe being told through a couple hundreds of chapters. Dragon Ball, I don't think is as vast because it's had a much more difficult time with trying to extend outside of Goku. Like we did get some world building with the Moro stuff where we find out that that Moro was the one that injured the Grand Supreme Kai prior to him fighting Kid Buu, and that's why Kid Buu had this advantage because he was fighting a lesser in power character. So you do get a little bit of that, but for the most part, they don't really focus on the past or on anyone's background. A lot of celebrities that are currently posing as being woke used to say and do really offensive things before being woke became the new trend. Some spoke positively. Oh, are you talking about Weinstein, Ruben? I didn't. I feel so ignorant. I didn't pick up. I feel horrible. I'm just gonna quietly secede into my own little hole. I feel so ashamed. I can't believe I didn't pick up on that reference. You should have made it 99% more clear, and then I would have realized it. I mean, I don't know why you didn't just say his name. I was over here scratching my head, trying to understand who he was. I'm actually looking it up right now. Harvey Weinstein, Kathleen Kennedy. First thing that comes up is Harvey Weinstein scandal. Mega producer Kathleen Kennedy proposes anti-abuse commission. So I'm not presently seeing anything besides that. All of it is from October 2017. Hope I answered your question. His name is Harvey and he is fat. I mean, so is, Christy, but we don't go around calling him Fat Chris. I feel like if he had been the Republican nominee, a lot of people would have been trying to be his VP because they would have thought he was gonna, eat a little too much while in office. Christie's such an oddity, like in terms of modern politicians, because you can actually look at all of the governors and senators of recent times, and you can't find any that are as large as him. Which really should say something about whether appearance actually matters when running for office, but whatever. I remember I had this one person who was like, if you don't get a haircut, you can't run for office. I was like, wait a second, they'll get upset with me for having some relatively short hair, but then they'll let this specimen of large variety be the governor of a whole state. Okay. Oh, I remember Ford and that little footage of him running over that lady. Oh, I'm trying to do a video on the USMCA, and it might be of a very maybe like 20 minutes, 30 minutes, because it's gonna have clips from the from Door, and I think also one from somebody else. But before those clips play, you're gonna see uh, people who support it talking, "Oh my God, it's so great for jobs," blah 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 blah, and then they're gonna respond. I'm gonna read some statement and then break down what they said. Is the dead pimp still considered Congressman of Nevada? Dead pimp. I'm sorry. When it comes to Nevada politicians, the only one I remember that's not in office is Harry Reid, the former majority leader, and then the only current ones I can recall are Jackie Rose, and that's pretty much it. Dead pimp. Uh, yeah, I don't know who that is. Using all these nicknames, and they're just flying right over my head. I think this is revenge for not getting the Giuliani documentary as quick as you would have wanted. He's like, as part of my sinister scheme, I'm going to come in there and use names that you can't recognize and trip you up and confuse you. I mean, it is working, so I have to give you credit for that. Whew. I think he supported Trump too. I mean, isn't that kind of the thing with all the Republicans? They all just kind of cower and back Trump. Oh man, I need to. Speaking of that, I need to include. I don't know when. Like I know Giuliani knew Trump by the time he was mayor, but I can't give a specific year or how. Like I haven't found any clip of him just talking about it. So if that's not in there, it's because I couldn't find anything specifying it. That's how it is with a lot of these people. Like if you just look at a lot of the text that's written about them, even these major politicians, there's always that one period where there's basically nothing. Like when we got to the 70s for the documentary, I have him voting for McGovern, and then I think two more sentences, and then you get to the Reagan years, which is a much more notable period of his life, granted, but it sucks that you just have this little bit of stuff for a whole decade of this man's life, especially since it's of him as an adult, as some person that was rising in prominence. I don't know. It's a little rant that people won't be able to get. And Music Fiend must have went retired early. He took a short interval to speak in here and then disappeared. And it's all right. He doesn't have to show up. But I was just missing him so much. No, but those edited videos are always kind of a bug because it always starts like this. I get an idea, just a general topic, and then I look for some clips, watch all of those, and then as I'm watching it, I think of whatever I'm gonna say. I do have to show up. Oh, I'm so flattered, Music Fiend. You love a man you've never met. Even the Lady Luck and Logic met me more times than you, and that was only once. Dude, that was the funniest thing in the world. You go up and meet the only two broads you meet out of all the ones you talk to are the biggest gold digger in the U.S. and then some hoe that doesn't even want to shake your hand. That's the most amusing thing ever. Let's see what else is here. Yeah, now Ruben is back on Twitter. They discouraged him, and he's decided to give him one more go. He feels the same way about Twitter that I feel about Wikipedia. I mean, out of the current Congress members, certainly out of the current House members, I'd probably say if I was going to do one, then anybody would be Ro Khanna, because he's the only progressive person that either doesn't get talked about, or if he does, it's negative. So I'll definitely consider it. When I gotta get a list of these people. We gotta put them on a Google Doc. We got Kerry, Roy Cohn. You know, I'm sure I'll probably do Manchin at one point or another. Talk about the hells of that dinosaur, that Democrat in name only. He's on the chopping block next. Oh, Ruben, you know there's like a whole plot to get rid of Kyle's Wikipedia page going on right now. You remember what I told you about how somebody just decided, even though it's been up there for years, this is not notable. And then he put up the delete thing, and then Kyle went on Twitter and said, they're trying to get rid of my page. You know, you can contribute by saying something here. And then this guy was like, well, even though there are more people saying to keep it, they don't matter because they just made their accounts today. And I was in a really difficult spot because if I say agree, I can't defend. Like, basically, I agree with the points that were made by the person trying to get rid of it. It's this one user who is like kind of, I don't know what he is politically, but he was trying to say that Kyle is not notable enough to have a page based off of his lack of coverage by a news source. So, for example, he's trying to get rid of Hassan Piker's page too, which is Cenk's cousin. And you won't see any of them try to get rid of Cenk's page because they have multiple sources that are notable. Yeah, I don't think it's over a political bias thing, or him trying to, because he puts down like the stupid stuff that like Levin and Hannity and the rest of them say. So I think he made a good case, but because it's someone I like, I don't want to go and help in getting rid of it. So I just stayed neutral. It's like, vote to keep it, vote to remove it. If you vote to keep it, you can't defend it. If you vote to remove it, you're doing something that's negative to a person you like. The founder of Wikipedia is pro-Israel and supports Netanyahu's oppression, but they're bad too. Wow. So you're referring to Wales, right? Good old Jimmy. He definitely is. It's not him. I'll tell you that person is not a mod. Which theoretically, if you're the owner of the founder of the site, you're going to be a mod, unless there was like some big coup. But yeah, that's the reason that article is targeted. But the guy's trying to do it again. He said, "I'm going to wait until the new year, and this time we're going to lock the article so people can't edit it while we're arguing about whether to keep it or not." Man, you're doing all this just to get rid of one page, and they literally have pages on there that don't even have any sources. But whatever. That's far from being their biggest act of disillusioning behavior for me. That site is such a. I guess what kills me is that a lot of people who use it don't know about the drama that goes on behind the scenes. It's a really. It's like my love it or hate it website. I have like a love hate relationship with it. I like that you have this place where people can get, the first place they're going to look for information about someone. But I hate the people who also are on there because they make these arguments that are just so like they don't even. I guess what I'm saying is the site itself isn't a problem, but the people who edit it can be very problematic because you can literally edit it, one article the way you would edit another one, and then somebody just comes on there and says, "I don't like this. I'm going to get rid of it," and then all you can do is go on the talk page, and sometimes the person won't even talk to you. But then if you try to put it back, you get accused of edit warrant when they didn't even want to have a consensus in the first place. I think it's funny that Kyle used Media Matters as a source because they hate Kyle too for not letting Orange Man stop him from criticizing the Democrats. Isn't that why they hate Jimmy? That like they're not. What did Boa call TYT MSNBC after hours? Isn't that why they go after him too? Because he's not trying to be like the rest of these people. They're all just Orange Man bad and are actually talking about issues that are outside of Trump's spectrum. But yeah, I do like doing these little things about people because you learn a lot of stuff about them that you didn't know, and you also learn things about other people. I mean, I would have never expected I would look up the president of Haiti while talking about Giuliani. But that does come into play during it for a reason that you'll find out if you actually watch the upload. Yeah, we're getting about around the length of the usual streams, about an hour and a half almost. I usually, end the thing. But yeah, let's see. We've got the how 17 broke Dragon Ball video this week. We've got the Dear John letter writer upload. I'm gonna see if I can if the basically the only thing I'm worried about is getting the clips and then feeling that those are enough to sustain the because I think the documentary is probably gonna be like an hour long. It's gonna be the longest one yet. Because there's a lot of stuff that has to be explained on my part. So you'll get, between me reading the facts or what someone else said, you'll get clips of him, and then I'll speak at different points. Wikipedia edited out the part of the Winsk article that mentioned Bernie and or a Bernie campaign member dragged into getting rid of into her. Oh well, that wasn't Wikipedia. That was a user on Wikipedia. Kyle is a lot more forgiving of the Democrats than Jimmy Dore is, so Media Matters hating him is more alarming. Well, that doesn't make sense because if they're going to go after people who don't like the Democrats, and then a person who doesn't like them more is getting gone after less, well, that's kind of strange. Something's not adding up here. This is kind of a little confusing. Whence is what the School of Americas is now called. All right, well, I appreciate the information. Again, if that is off of there, you can go and look in the edit history and you can see who got rid of it. I told you that's the biggest problem with that site, that if a page isn't like a president or some other person that is big, you'll have one or two people just go on there and just delete a whole bunch of stuff. Or, I mean, I don't understand. It's just weird to me. And then it'll tell you, they'll have like Trump's article, right? This damn thing is almost 400 bytes. They'll tell you that a page that's 100 plus, like 180, 190 is, oh my God, it's so long. And you have all of these superfluous details that are not significant. Like, what are you talking about? You literally got multiple pages of people who, are double the size of this. But I told you that when you try, they've actually created rules to stop people from making reasonable arguments like that you have something much bigger, so this should be kept because your own size constraints evidently are not applicable to your own damn site. They go, well, you can't say X or Y. It's like, what? I'm just telling you what you have and why we would think this was okay to have based off of what's already on here. But like I said, they don't listen on purpose. Actually, I didn't say that before, but I'm saying it now. They don't listen on purpose. They don't try to understand things that are being stated to them. And I guess they have the right to do that. It's kind of annoying because they try to pretend as if you go on these talk pages, it's actually going to matter what you say. Let's see. So SOA Winst is the place where most of the CIA trained extreme right wing detractors have gotten their training in. Well, we can definitely go into that group at a later point. I'm Ruben. It's been a very tiring day, I can tell you that, and I really hate that I didn't get to stream, at 6 like I try to usually do, but I couldn't because that noise was just. I mean, no, it was not good. So, what else is gonna happen this week? I'm trying to think. I was just so happy to write out that whole thing this past week because it was really I didn't know if I would have enough material. When you deal with people who are in office that are not presidents, it's a lot harder to get the facts of their tenure. But I was able to get at least a decent portion of stuff, and I'll try to go off of that. Also, if you saw that clip show documentary that guy did on Jank, if I ever do one on him, which I don't think maybe I might, I don't know, but if I ever did one on him, I would actually speak and appear on like that's what I hate about a lot of these um, critics of bigger people. They don't ever get on camera. It's like they're afraid or something. I used to browse Encyclopedia, which is Wikipedia, if Everett was in charge of it. I thought that was ED. Did you have fun on there? Was that a nice site that you enjoyed and got to learn so much about the world from? I mean, I'm asking, I'm not saying. And all these movie franchises suck. The new Star Wars trilogy sucked. The X-Men film sucked. The that Captain Marvel crap was horrible. It's like what are they doing? That the last Ghostbusters was bad. The new Terminator movie is going to be horrible as well. I don't know what's wrong. Why can't anybody just make a decent film anymore? ED is more gossip. Unset is structured like it was. Legitimate research source for the most part. It's the same as ED. Uh, well, now I'm aware of their intricacies. I'm just glad that for the rest of these like modern politicians, the only one that I might maybe take, because like I said, I want the Giuliani one to be 3 parts, and I've outlined them to you before. The only other person that I might do that in that same format for is McConnell and maybe McCain. And McCain is actually, I'm not even, that's just a possibility. McConnell's a sure thing. I'm going to come back to that later, but the rest of them, yeah, that show sucks. I know, which is weird because I remember I haven't seen the original one since I was little, but I remember really liking the original. Thought it was funny. Um, had action. Like I just, what is wrong with these remakes and these new versions of franchises? They just keep on being horrible. Yeah, we should. I should do a. I was gonna do this video. It's gonna be called "Why Sonic Games Suck," and it was gonna be me like explaining how you have all these stupid critics that are like, when they made the games 3D, that was when the game started being horrible. And then you look at the reviews for both of the adventure games, and then for Unleashed. And the consensus is all the speed stages are good, and that it's other parts of the game that weigh it down. And then people will go, "Oh, it's because they have all these characters." Like, okay, I'm supposed to believe you're going to have a franchise for what is it now, 29 years, and you're not going to bring in any new characters ever? It was always just going to be Sonic and Tails, really? For And then what's crazy is they haven't even really been introducing any like mainstays for the last 10 years. So they've pretty much curbed it, and it's just them being weird. But I was gonna say, like, why is it we have no new games other than Sonic Mania, which is basically an official ROM hack? Like, you're gonna take old stages and then you're gonna touch them up and then put a new title on it. No. So that would be something else I would find interesting. I had mentioned like the Forgotten Man and the whole thing of wanting to cover people that you think are notable that won't get covered enough. So like the reason I'm doing the Giuliani one is because I know that I know that he has had a documentary in the past, but I want one that is basically all the ones on him are outdated. Like they're prior to the Trump stuff and him running for president and all that. So that's the point of having it be a three-parter, like a trilogy. Escape from the City. Music theme. Thanks for letting us know you didn't get past the first level. You kept getting killed by that truck at the end of. Oh, I was actually. Oh, this sucks. I didn't put this video up because this person, like, basically, I was pissed off yesterday over what someone did or wasn't doing or whatever, and I took, because I've played City Escape, according to my file, at least 79 times. I think I might actually have a screenshot in here somewhere. Let me see if I can. No, there's nowhere I can put that where you can see it. But yeah, I was gonna point out how I've played this level almost 80 times and I can never get an A. My highest was a B. And I was gonna say that because I've played this level dozens and dozens and only can get this, second highest score isn't horrible, but it's not what you want. I can reasonably conclude that the next couple times I play, I'm probably not going to get an A based off of what has happened before. And I was going to like tie it into the fact that when you have people that sign up for stuff and that take months to do their part, you can reasonably deduce that they're probably going to stay doing stuff you don't like, such as delaying the thing that you want them to do. I don't know. Maybe that makes sense to Music Fiend. I hope it does. I hated the Sonic Boom cartoon. I hate shows that use its type. I mean, really, that the whole Sonic Boom brand annoyed me. I just like the game sucked. The show was only really liked because it was the first Sonic show in like 10 years. So that's pretty much my view on it. And really, the only cartoon I go back to is Sat AM, which I don't know why it takes people to this day are still trying to make a third season of that show. That's never coming out. The Gumball cartoon from Cartoon Network has. Oh, I didn't like that show at all, man. I was so sick. Every time you turn on Cartoon Network, it's that little orange and blue thing. I did to that show what little kids did to Legend of Korra. Remember how it was like the first cartoon ever to get pulled off TV and put on the internet due to low ratings? That it would air right after SpongeBob, and then little kids would turn to something. Get the mental image of little kids like doing that, like just they're watching it. And when is Japan making a full show out of the weird Sonic OVA. Man, I like that OVA. I mean, it's the was it the only time we've had Metal Sonic in any cartoon? Never, by the way. We're never gonna see that get made if it's been that long. But Ruben, would you like to see that video? Why do Sonic games suck? And we would break down all the reasons and like talk about. I don't want to spoil the whole thing, but would you be interested in that? Like basically have a week or two where it's like maybe one or two political videos, and then the rest of it's like cartoon type stuff. Oh my God, Envoy showed up. I thought he went to sleep. I thought his ex-wife was still suing him. She had him in the slammer. Oh, you didn't. So Envoy, this week I'm putting out the Dear John letter writer documentary, and I got all the screenshots, everything. It's gonna be perfect. Half hour of the clown. I'll be interested in political streams and cartoon streams. You mean finally, man, dude? That I was just gonna ask you about the Dear John letter writer is the nickname I gave her. I got all the screenshots. I even have the screenshot where I mentioned her writing, like doing audio Dear John letters. It's gonna be a half an hour, 28, 29 minutes, something like that. Coming out either somewhere between Tuesday and Thursday. Yeah, man, when I couldn't believe it. I was like, how in the hell can you have a woman come and say you had to push the video back, right? What video? The Dear John letter writer? No, that's coming out this week. I've already got it recorded and have the screenshots. I just have to edit it. I haven't really had to push anything back actually. It's like the only video I've kind of regretted not doing was the Soleimani one, and that's because there's a really good status quo clip where they were talking about the implications of it. Where in the hell are these videos being uploaded? Here? What? Music theme. We already have the one on the Lady Lack and Logic, that clown, and you can watch that. That's the first part of the chick stuff. Yeah, I know it's coming this week, but wasn't supposed to come out earlier. No, we talked about it last week when I was talking about making it, but I hadn't recorded it. I recorded it today. I got the whole thing. Envoy's so lazy he won't even say yeah. He puts YH, and we're supposed to infer there's an E and an A lost somewhere in the abyss that are actually part of those words. Yeah, when I was in fifth, I think it was like fourth and fifth grade. I was all into Sonic, man. That was the only game series ever where I went out of my way to play older games. Like I remember having a Wii and playing Shadow on there, and just like what I'm saying, just going back and trying to hunt down older stuff to experience it. And it was like every other game. Oh, this is bad. It sucks. God, and it's really horrible because when you know that the same people who made the ones that are liked make the ones that are bad, you're just like, what the hell's wrong with them? So I'm gonna describe the different things people say for why they suck, and then I'm gonna give my own opinion of how they can make an ideal game that can appeal to both critics and to their fans, and then that'll be it. So it's that. It's the how 17 broke Dragon Ball. Um, what else? I think that's pretty much it. Those two, the Dear John letter writer. It's a nice little collection, a cavalcade of stuff. Man, Envoy just got here. I would feel so bad to end this right now. But I am somewhat tired, so. What do you think of the rest of Sega's games? I haven't played them before. I mean, like, for me, Sega is synonymous with Sonic. I haven't bothered. Now, if you ask me what I thought of the rest of Nintendo's games, that would be a different story. But yeah, I usually don't. I have no experience with the rest of the games. That's all I'm saying. I know that they basically shelved all the rest of the franchises for Sonic, and that we're in some kind of like weird lull period because we haven't had a new game in 2 years, except for Sonic Mania and those little cartoons on it. It's just weird, man. They don't even care anymore. Just like whatever. But yeah, I appreciate those who showed up. I'll record this stuff. I already have one of them recorded. I'll record the rest of it tonight. So thank you for watching. Have a good day, or good night rather, and I will be streaming tomorrow and Monday as well. So appreciate it.